Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this postmortem of my Blitz game number 543. I had the white pieces and kicked off with e4. My opponent played c5, the Sicilian defense. I go knight f3, goes knight c6, all pretty normal moves, and now I go d4 for the open Sicilian. He takes, I take, and now we get the first somewhat unusual move, this d6 move. Although it's still quite a flexible position here, and he can get away with that move. There's lots of different ways to play from this position. One of the ideas is to play for a Sveshnikov with knight to f6, hitting the pawn, bringing this knight out, and then e5, kicking the knight. That's a Sveshnikov. Or the Kalashnikov with the immediate e5. Another interesting way to play. But you can also, from this position, transpose into other kinds of Sicilians, like e6 would go into a Taimanov Sicilian, and g6 would go into an accelerated dragon. But my opponent played d6, a bit of a rare move here. And I can try and keep it in normal lines with knight c3. I think this would lead most likely to a classical Sicilian with knight f6. But I've been trying to learn the Maroczy bind structure, so I play c4, and we get a typical Maroczy bind with the pawns on e4 and c4. And now we get a few normal moves. So even though we're in a bit of a rare position, we're all playing fairly normal moves here. Let's see, g6 here would go into some kind of dragon. Yeah, I guess that's like an accelerated dragon, the Maroczy bind against the dragon. But he plays e6. Okay, so after this, let's see. Once again, I could go into more explored territory with knight d b5. I really didn't think about this move. Maybe we could take a look at it. Knight d to b5. It's one of those maneuvers you see in the Sveshnikov, but I'm not so familiar with it in this particular position. He can kick the knight. Knight drops back. Then bishop to e7, just developing. I develop. Castles. Looks like white is just going to play on with the knight on a3 here. b6. Okay, so black with b6, black would be setting up a hedgehog. And against the Maroczy, and this knight would take a few moves to get out of play, get back into the game, maybe via e3 or d4. Something like that would be a way for white to activate. Anyway, that's not how the game went. Just curious. I was curious about that. So I played bishop e2, still going for this typical Maroczy setup. He goes bishop e7. And surprisingly, even though we're in a kind of a rare position, we stay in the opening book. I guess we're playing fairly logical moves. And you see this keeps an advantage to white, this particular way of playing. So I'm doing okay here. Bishop e3, e6, rook c1. Yeah, one thing about the Maroczy is you take your time, you get all of your pieces out, and you just kind of hold on to the center, and you end up with more space. And I think eventually you have to maybe do something active, but in the meantime your opponent maybe will run out of places to put his pieces. That's one of the ideas. Somehow you'll find some way to put that space to good use. Anyway, b3, shoring up the center is finally, shoring up the c-pawn is finally, we're leaving the opening book there. Knight b3, dropping this knight back, or king to h1, preparing f4, have been played in this position. Okay, but b3 is not too bad, although I guess here maybe he can, the engine is suggesting he can undermine with b5. Would be a good way for black to play. He plays rook c8, reasonable move. I go knight c2, dropping this knight back. So one thing about the Maroczy is you do want to keep all your material on the board, because that's one of your advantages is with more space. The side with with more space, you want to keep all the pieces on to take advantage of that space, whereas black would probably like to try to trade some pieces to relieve his congestion. He has managed to get all his pieces out, but they are kind of running into one another here. Okay, he goes queen c7, and right here I make a mistake. So this was I mentioned this in the description of the video. See if you can spot the first blunder. This is the first real blunder of the game, and it's the move knight a4. So if you want to take a minute and see if you can figure out what's wrong with that move, you can pause the video. Okay, I'm going to show the answer now. I played the move knight a4, and I've just completely forgotten about the e-pawn here, and he can just take it. Knight takes e4. So a lot of times in the Maroczy bind, most often you have the move f3 in. And so your knights are free to maneuver about without having to defend the pawns. And so that's one of the points of playing the f3 move, also to guard the g4 square. And I just never played that move. In this particular position, the chess engine is also suggesting that f4 is a good move, grabbing more space in the center, which is another way to play this. So it's kind of a reason to keep this pawn back if you're not sure if it wants to go to f3 or f4. You can kind of delay that, but you certainly want to take care of the defense of the e-pawn before you start maneuvers like knight a4. Anyway, he let me off the hook here. He played knight e5, and now I can play some forcing moves. I'm still neglecting this pawn, but I create some issues here by attacking his rook. The rook moves, went to e8, and then I play f4 attacking his knight. And now the knight needs to move. And right here he makes the blunder that basically gives away the game. So if he just plays knight g6, this is a normal position where maybe I'm a little bit better. I guess he just miscalculated here, wasn't thinking, played without thinking, and so that just drops a piece, of course. And I stay a piece up through the rest of the game. One interesting thing is I'm kind of surprised that he lasted so long, but he started playing a little more sharply here. Let's see, he played e5, which I thought at first was just another mistake. Yeah, oh yeah, it is just another mistake. I need to take with the queen, though. I didn't take in the best way. I took with the knight, and he played f5, so he didn't end up losing an extra piece. He uses this f5 move to block my queen. So I guess at this point he's starting to play a little better. Waking up, but it's already lost. But anyway, at this point, he can at least get this pawn back, piece back. And so he's just down one piece and maybe a pawn. Let's see, it's my turn here. After queen takes d5, I want to keep exchanging material, opening things up in the center for my pieces, also defending my f-pawn. He takes back. And so we can take stock here. It's 3 against 3 and 3 against 2. Yeah, so I'm up a piece and a pawn, and should be pretty easy to win, but he keeps on fighting here. So let's see. I go rook c to d1, harassing his queen, queen to c6. And I never really lose the advantage here, but maybe I could have played more actively at certain places. Like right here, rook d5 is a suggestion of chess engine, or c5. I'm not sure about c5, but rook d5 looks logical. Put some more pressure on that isolated pawn, maybe double on the d file. I wanted to maneuver this knight around, get it into the game, and you'll see this still keeps a winning edge for white, so it's not like it's a bad move. He helps me out a bit by offering all these trades. If you're up in the material, particularly if you're a whole piece up, you want to trade off all the pieces and just win the endgame. Just make sure you have enough pawns left to win. Let's see, he takes. And I move my king into the corner. Now he lifts his rook to e6, being clever and taking advantage of the pin. But there's a neat tactic that white has here, so if you want to... here, I'll back up. You can maybe try it from this position, if you didn't notice what the answer was there already. After rook to e6, I can't take his rook right away because he can take my rook, and that's even checkmate, so have to be a bit careful. But there's a very good move after rook e6 to exploit the exposed position of his rook. So why don't you see if you can find that move. Pause the video here. Okay, I'm going to give the answer away. After rook e6, the good move in this position is knight d3. What knight d3 does is it attacks the queen and it defends the rook. So it's a double attack. By defending the rook, I'm now threatening to take the rook on e6 here, and I'm also threatening the queen. So two pieces are under attack, and I win more material with that. So I didn't spot that idea. I played knight f3, still winning advantage. He goes rook to f6 now, doubling on the f-file, and I go knight h4. Maybe not the most active way to play. Once again, bringing the rook into the game. Rook to d7, coordinating on the g7 square and threatening mate would be the most forceful way to play. That would lead to some more exchanges here of some kind, and that's what I want, is to try and exchange things off. In this case, the engine is suggesting g6, but that would open lines towards his king. Anyway, knight h4 is not a bad move, but not the most forceful one. Okay, queen a3 coming down, moving his queen away from the defense here and looking at one of my pawns. I could probably ignore this and just continue with rook d7 as before, but I brought the queen back to e2. This also has the idea of looking at the e-pawn. He plays g5 here, attacking my knight. So I take en passant, takes here. He's opened up the f-file, but everything is defended. And after these, he can now grab a pawn over here. But, well, he takes his pawn in front of his king first. I take back. And now he could have grabbed a pawn, but he attacks my knight. And then that allows me to grab another pawn. Finally, he grabs over here on a2. But after queen takes a2, it's actually a forced mate. So you might want to stop at this point and imagine that black has played queen takes a2 and see if you can find the forced mate for white. See if it's a good little calculation exercise. See if you can calculate the mate all the way out. Okay, I'm going to give the answer away now. Pause the video if you want time to think about it. After queen takes, the first move is queen to f7 check, and that leaves only two choices for the king. Let's eliminate the h6 choice. He didn't go here, but if he did go there, then queen to g6 is mate, supported by the knight. The way he played it is a little bit cuter. The king goes to h8, and then the knight comes in here, g6 with the mate. And that's a very nice coordination with the queen and the knight, the queen blocking all the escape squares and the knight delivering the final blow. All the while, of course, there's this threat of checkmate to my king, but all my moves came with check at that point. So that's how it goes. Pretty cute finish, I thought. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.